Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Ask Me Anything Big Red One Year Family Live event. Our Ask Me Anything series is an opportunity for our Big Red One soldiers, families, and veterans to share their personal experiences of building resilient homes through the use of our many resources the Army provides. My name is Christian Bishop, and I'll be your host tonight. Today, we have the pleasure of having Mrs. Sarah Hernandez. Mrs. Sarah Hernandez is a first grade teacher at Ware Elementary and a military spouse. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi.
So would you like to introduce yourself to our guests?
Yes, my name is Sarah Hernandez. My husband and I, we've been together for about 17 years. This year we'll be celebrating our 12th year wedding anniversary. We've been at Fort Riley for 2.5 years. In less than a month, my husband will be celebrating his 13th, I think, anniversary in the military. We have 3 kids. Mia, she's my oldest, she's 6 years old. We have a little boy, he's 4 years old. And then we have a toddler, Murphy Rose, she's 2.5 years old. And of course, we have to have our pets.
Yes.
We have a 9-year-old dachshund, a 12-year-old cat, and I have somehow convinced my husband that we needed a leopard gecko solely for the purpose to have in my classroom. But he's been hanging out in my daughter's room all summer long. Yes.
Well, thank you again for joining us and taking time. I'm sure you were plenty busy.
Oh, yes.
Today, Sarah and I will spend some time answering your important questions about me being a military spouse and back to school. If we don't get to your questions tonight, please drop any questions in the feed and we will try and get them answered. So let's go ahead and get started. Question 1. I recently became a military spouse and I'm feeling overwhelmed by all the uncertainty, going on right now. How do you usually cope with stress and anxiety?
Well, stress and anxiety with the military, it's hard, especially because we cannot have those certainty answers, and so we just don't ever know, and it's hard to plan around the military or leave. What I do is I always talk to my husband, and I make sure that I have the important contacts, who his supervisors are in case I need information. I have his information in case I need to get a hold of Red Cross. If there's somebody staying behind, I'll make sure I have their contact information. But I always lean on my husband for the information about what's going on, where we are transparent as possible.
Yes.
It's limited what he can divulge to me. And other than that, I would rely on my tribe, the women that I've bonded with, to be able to support me and to support our family, however, which way it can be.
Well, thank you. So this person wrote in, I'm new to the area and don't know much about the Midwest. What are some places that you and your family like to visit at Fort Riley?
So we like to just get in the car and go. We've discovered parts of the Oregon Trail near Marysville. We discovered parts of the Santa Fe Trail, which is near Council Grove. We have visited the largest ball of twine, which is about 2.5 hours away. We're actually about 2 hours away from the center of the continental United States, and they have a little chapel there, a little playground for the kids to play around, and so we took that adventure. But in Geary County, we visited the Geary County State Park Falls. It's a little hike, but once you get down to see the falls, the kids can play in the water. We love going to the farmer's market. Thursdays, they have them in Junction City, and Saturdays, the bigger one, is over by the mall. We've been to I'm going to say this wrong, the Casando Heights Castle by Lindsborg. And they have a beautiful outlook there. So there's a lot of things to just travel and just hop in your car and go. Just look around. There's all kinds of historical markers around here.
Well, thank you for sharing that. My spouse is on deployment, and I don't know what resources are available to help our family. Do you have any suggestions on where they think they could start?
Well, always start with your spouse. Make sure you have contact information in case something happens at home. with deployments or whenever they leave on TDY or whatnot, something's bound to go wrong. So you need to be able to have some form of communication with them, maybe your rear D or whatnot. But you also have resources for parents. CYS gives you a limited number of hours that you can drop your children off, only for deployments though. And you can have a couple hours of child-free time. You can always contact ACS and make sure that they have all kinds of resources and activities that you can join in on.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I'd use it to take a nap.
Oh, yes.
So, my family and I recently PCS'd to Fort Riley, and we are new to the Midwest, and I am a teacher. So what are some resources that I can utilize to find employment near the installation? Or can you explain how you were able to get into teaching once you guys arrived here?
Sure. I believe it's the third Wednesday, but I may be wrong. At the hotel, the Candlewood Suites on Post, they have a newcomer's welcome, and they have various people there that talk about what you can do, how you can be involved in the community. And so I heard about Geary County Schools and how to look up employment through there. I also use the resources through ACS. Okay. They have people that will help you build your resume, put you in contact with Geary County or even Manhattan or down in Chapman. They are very in tune with just the local knowledge and the local education places. And also transferring your teaching license, you can be reimbursed to a certain amount of money to have your license transfer over. That's what I ended up having to do from transferring my license from North Carolina to Kansas.
Okay. Well, thank you. I've been here for 6 months, and I want to meet other spouses and wives. Can you kind of talk about, you spoke of your tribe. So what were some things that you did when you first arrived here? Because you were probably here right before COVID. So what were ways you got out and just, were able to meet people?
It was really hard. I'm a wallflower. I'm not one to be out and open, and I'm more of an introvert, and I like to stay home. And we did come right before COVID hit and everything was shut down. What I did is we got involved in our church, and I met my tribe through there. I met some amazing women through the school that I work with. There's also, you'll see a lot of spouses connect online or set up coffee dates. There's the Sisterhood of Traveling something or other on Facebook, and they have been doing walks at Milford Lake. There's so many activities. You can contact ACS. They have groups and committees and things for you to get involved and help, and you can meet others through that way.
Why did you decide to become an educator?
I have always been interested with helping kids or teaching, or somehow I started tutoring my little sister in math and reading. She struggled in it, and it was just a lot of fun for me to help her. And then in 7th grade, I was having some trouble with my grades, and one of my teachers, she saw me for who I was and said, "Hey, what are you doing? What's going on? How can I help you?" And being noticed and seen for being a student and knowing that there's something else going on, and her being able to catch me there, that really touched my heart, and she made all the difference in the world. And that's what I want to do, is I want to be somebody that these kids can look upon to seek help or guidance, and I want to be there just to help them achieve all their goals.
Thank you. So what are some back to school tips that you can share with parents as an educator to just help ensure that our students have a great start to this year?
So my first grader, my daughter is going to be a first grader this year, and we've been a little lax on her on our bedtime routines and our bedtime schedules. She's been able to stay up later, and they really need those 8 hours of sleep. So I need to start sleep training her again to get used to staying awake, and just make sure she's able to participate throughout the day. And these little tips of, she knows how to tie her shoes, she's able to open those Ziploc baggies and those fruit cups without getting the juice everywhere, just making them more independent and making sure that they get their 8 hours rest and make sure they're getting up in the morning. It's hard for me. I'm not used to waking up that early, so I have to also train myself and not hit the snooze button so many times. So just really working on that sleep schedule is really helpful.
Do you have tips and tricks for, because you have 3 that are in different ages. So what do you think works best for you to just try and be calm as you try and transition, in the mornings to, getting the kids to school and the different child cares and things?
So actually, 3 kids. It's funny, it's oddly enough, all 3 kids go somewhere different in the morning, and it's hard for me to get all 3 of them in time and for me to get to work on time right now, because my husband's not home. So I just make sure that I have a routine. The biggest thing is that routine and making sure you have that schedule. So the kids the older 2 are pretty independent. My son, he has some behaviors that we need to really focus on the positivity. And every time he does one of his chores, like brushes his teeth or gets dressed independently, he gets a smiley face, and he loves to work for those smiley faces. And just offering that positive affirmation for them, but having that routine. They know what they're supposed to do, when to do it, and how to do it, and just encouraging them to be independent on their own.
So how do you transition? So I'm sure getting them to 3 different places. I'm a mom of 1 child, so I know just how difficult it is to get her to one spot. But once you get to work, what's the one way that you're able to just kind of decompress? So is there a tip and trick that, you kind of have to transition from mom to, now I'm Mrs. Hernandez?
And that's a hard one for me. Just taking a break and being able to breathe, because I don't get a lot of time on my own, being that I work full time and then I have 3 kids. Just having that time to breathe, and maybe it's take a sip of my energy drink, because I don't drink coffee, and being able to have that peace of mind, even journaling a little bit to get out whatever happened in that morning, because our mornings are typically crazy. But just taking that moment to be in the present and be able to reflect on the morning and be able to step out of it and writing it out is very helpful for me.
That's such a great tip.
Yes.
So thank you. We are looking for some cost-effective school supplies. Do you have any resources or tips on where to get school supplies? And do you prefer to, so it's a 2-part question, do you prefer to shop for school supplies in person, or have you found a great place online to shop?
So I have been shopping for school supplies all summer long for my classroom. A lot of I have spent way too much money on my classroom, but Target and I believe Walmart, they will price match. And right now I saw an ad where Target has their back to school shopping on sale right now. You can look online to the various ads to compare, and they have the easy pick up and go. So you order Target's, I believe, is 2 hours, and then Walmart is 24 hours. And then there's local I don't know if they're charities, but there's local churches, or there's the United Way that are also doing back to school stuff. So you can look into local affiliates to see how what resources they have there. And we're also Geary County is doing Stuff the Bus these next couple of Saturdays, where you can donate in extra school supplies for those that need help. And if you are one that needs help, just contact your school and they'll be able to help you with those resources as well.
So if you could just kind of talk and tell us about your past self, what's one advice that you would give?
One advice I could give is patience. Being in the military, you never know what's going to happen. You never know when a deployment is going to come up, or NTC, or you get last minute information. And being patient and flexible. Our soldiers, they don't have control over what happens. We don't have control over PCSing. We don't have control over household goods, when they're gonna arrive. And being a mom, you have to be patient and flexible. We have to just change as our kids change. So I think for me, my past self, I'd say expressing that patience and really letting me be able to be flexible with all the changes that occur.
Okay. Our PCS day is scheduled in the middle of school year. How do you transition, and what are some ways that, for my kid that's leaving in the middle of school, that they can kind of stay in touch with their other friends and everything?
So it's always important to keep that kind of information and talk about it with your teacher, so that they're aware and they can support you too. We've been through this, and I've had several students PCS, and it's hard on them emotionally, because they have to start all over again. We have resources through our schools. We have school counselors that they can talk to, and you can always have pen pals too. So our young ones are learning how to write. And we have that technology where they can FaceTime or Facebook Messenger. Those are different ways that they can keep in contact with each other, but just making sure that the teachers are aware what's going on, so that we can support you and your students too.
Thank you. And you kind of talked about it. My second grader is having a hard time adjusting. Their dad has just left. And what are some tips and tricks that you have done as a parent, but also as a teacher, to kind of help with that transition?
Okay, so as a parent, we've gone through this recently. My husband's been away for a while. Before we prepare our kids, we let them know, we talk about what's going on. And something unique in our family that we do is they get a Build-A-Bear that has my husband talking to them and telling them that they love it, that he loves them, so that every night they can hear his voice. Now, my kids are younger, so they don't understand the concept of time, but when it gets closer, we have a countdown chain where they're able to have that visual cue of, hey, the chain's getting smaller, Dad's coming home. And what I ask of my parents is, hey, just communicate with me, because your babies are gonna need extra love, and they're gonna need that extra support, and your teacher is there to help them. Not only do we teach the academics, but we're also there to help support them social emotionally as well. And so if your student needs it, we can be there for them. We can put you in contact with the social workers or our school counselors to help support them, and they can pull them and talk with them to be able to work through those emotions and those feelings. So that's hard. It's hard on our little ones to be able to transition, and they don't quite understand what's going on. So.
My child will be starting school on Fort Riley. Is there after-school programs in the schools, or do you know of any resources that my kid can go after school? Because my spouse is a soldier, and I am currently a full-time working parent.
So some of the schools, they have a government-funded program called 21st Century, but that starts at second grade, and that's where they can learn STEM, they can do STEM activities. They can play with robots, they can learn about sewing or cooking, or you'll just have to check with your school to see if that's applicable for them. You'd also want to contact CYS, because there's the SAC, the School Age Children program, where the kids can go and do after-school activities there as well.
Okay, thank you. What does a typical day look like for you with your students? So like starting in the morning and then kind of transition through the day.
So we're going to change I usually start my morning we have 20 minutes where the students are coming in, eating breakfast. So I always start with my kids doing activities where they can socialize with one another. They get to play games. They get to build puzzles. They can color. We have Play-Doh, all kinds of activities that they can do with one another. And then I have my kids clean everything up and put it away. And then we do a morning meeting and we talk about what the plans are for the day, what special or we're going to be going to, whether it be PE or computer time or library time. So we have that morning meeting and we check in on each other. We see how we're doing throughout the day. And then we start with our reading and we really focus, because I teach first grade, we really focus on the foundations of phonics and working on understanding the letters and the letter sounds. And then we get the kids will have recess and then they'll have lunch. They get, my mind is blanking how long they've received for that. And then after lunch, we'll dive into math, and we have a new math curriculum that we're super excited about, more hands-on and more interactive games that they get to explore. And then we have our specials where they get to go to learn about music, which unfortunately, there are so many communities that they've cut out music in PE, and we have some amazing music and PE teachers. And then we come back and we learn about science and exploring, and then we wrap it up in those short 6-7 hours. They go fast.
Yeah.
And we have lots of love going, lots of growing, laughs, and just having fun learning.
Mm-hmm. So my kid did not go to any care setting, and now they are entering into 5th grade. Should I be concerned, or do you have any tips for me as I transition them to start kindergarten?
To start kindergarten, just working on that routine and preparing them for the small things. We have a lot of young children that don't have that early childhood experience. And so we have the highly qualified teachers that are able to work and transition them. The first semester of school, they really work on working with the kindergartners to just be in school. It's a big difference from coming home or being at home where there's maybe 1 or 2 or 3 siblings, and then being in a classroom where there's 18 friends and having to learn how to share, and just being in that setting where you cannot just get up and go anywhere or do anything. You have to follow with the group. So that first semester of kindergarten is really important for them to learn how to just be in school. And then the second semester, while they are still doing some academics, it's more of getting used to school. And then that second semester, they really dive into more of the academics and hitting where the students are really needing it the most.
What are some ways that I, as a parent, can get involved with my school? Are there activities that I can do, or are we allowed to volunteer?
That is a tricky question because we're not quite sure what COVID is going to look like this year, but you can always contact the schools to see if you're allowed to volunteer, and it's ever changing because of the time that we're in, but you can always participate in the PTOs and see how you can help them. And there will be information coming home once we get back in the flow of things. And if not, if you miss the paperwork, because it happens, I have a 6-year-old, not everything comes home, just contact the school and the secretaries are more than happy to help you and put you in touch. And there's a lot of I know that our Facebook page, for Ware Elementary, there's a lot of information there that's put out. So making sure that you're also on their Facebook pages, just to be within the know as well. That's helpful.
I will be arriving here, and I think I missed enrollment. Where do I go to enroll my kid?
You will go to USD 475. And Google that, and there will be a tab where it says enrollment, and it'll walk you through the process. And if you're stuck at all, or if you need help, contact the schools, and we can set you up with a computer, and we can walk you through that as well. It is a very easy process. I have to do it every year for my 6-year-old, and you'll have to do it again come the summertime to re-enroll your student. But it's a really easy process. You'll just go to the USD 475 website and click enrollment.
Thank you.
Yes.
So as a teacher and you get prepared for school, do you guys transition, do you guys have summer vacation? And what has been your favorite vacation that you have taken with the kids?
Oh, I love this question. We do have a summer vacation. We don't get paid over the summer because we're on a 10-month contract. But I love being able to spend time with my kids. This summer I've been working on classes because I'm working on getting my master's. So this summer has kind of been low key with my spouse being gone and working in school and having to maintain my kids' spot in daycare. We haven't done much, but last summer we were here in Fort Riley. We rented an RV or a camper and put it on the back of my car, and we ended up exploring 10 different states. We went in 2 weeks. We went to Colorado, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Iowa. We went to a lot of states. We went to Yellowstone National Park. We saw my sister in Utah. We went to the Mall of America. It was an amazing trip. The kids loved being on the road. And it was weird because we'd be driving for about 6 hours a day, and being as young as they were really good and flexible. So that has been my favorite trip so far.
As we kind of settle into the unknown of COVID, what do you think, and this is another two-part question, so I apologize. What do you think as a teacher you would give the advice to parents, how to just respond to the transition of the unknown of COVID? And then as a parent, do you have any tips or tricks on the unknown of, how you kind of just navigate your day-to-day?
With education, we're doing the best that we can. We try to get you the resources that you need. And going back to being flexible, things are ever changing with COVID and our responses. As of right now, we're not being asked to mask. It could change, I don't know. It's just, we have to be flexible and understanding of what's going around us. And just make sure that your child is washing their hands frequently. If they have a fever, they need to be fever-free without any kind of medication for 24 hours before they're allowed back in school. Or if they're throwing up, they need to be clear within 24 hours, and making sure those policies that the school has. And then as a parent, it's really hard because last year we had daycares closing, and being that my children are at 3 different places, we were juggling what we were doing for kids. And so I was able to rely on my husband a lot, and thankfully his unit allowed us to be able to have him work from home. But we'll see how this year goes. Yes. And what it throws at us.
Yeah. So are there any parting words that you have kind of to these viewers that are here, like I said, as we enter into back to school, and we start to, can't believe it's almost August.
I know.
But just some tips and tricks and some words of advice that you have for the next couple weeks.
So for being a military spouse, just having that understanding, you're not alone. There are so many other spouses out there that can relate to what's going on. Reach out for that support so that you can get the help that you need. Also, Military One Source, they're a good contact for counseling. They offer free counseling for a couple of sessions, and being able to talk that through is amazing. And as a parent, understand that your teacher is a person as well, and that they have other things going on. And we do try our best. We're there to help your student to grow academically and socially. And we want to love on your kids and just being open and honest about what's going on, so we can help you and your kids to be able to grow. And just having that open line of communication, because we're there to help you as well.
Well, I'd like to thank you again. I know that as a teacher and as a mom who is, and you actually we have a special guest today, as a mom and as a educator who's trying to, navigate the next 2 weeks of transition and preparing for school. for not only your own children, but for the children that you're going to care for. I thank you for taking this time to join us and answer some back to school questions. And to the viewers out there, you know, as before, if you guys have questions that haven't been answered, please drop them into the feed line and we will answer them a timely message. If you are interested in being one of our guest panels for the Bro Year family, please message the 1st Infantry Division Facebook page and give us your contact information. So thank you guys again, and have a great back to school.